Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today in War Thunder, it is time to look at the Warbond shop, which is coming for August of 2019. But before we start that, there are a few, news parts to go through. First of all, on the War Thunder forums, the developer VSN has actually posted the stat cards, or the preliminary stat cards, let's say, the data sheets for the P-59A Aerocomet and also the BF-110C6. Now, I'm going to leave these both in the description so you can yourself see how these things are going to perform in game. Unfortunately, it doesn't tell us how well the gun is going to perform in game when it comes to the MK101 for the BF-110C6. That's what I'm personally looking forward to, but we do have confirmation that the C6 is running the DB601N engines, which is quite a nice addition to it. So yeah, if you want to have a look at these, if you want to work out how they're going to play, or maybe, you know, have some discussions about some of the numbers, make sure to check it out. As I said, links will be in the description. On top of this as well, Operation Heat is nearly upon us, so it is time, if you haven't already, to join the Tech Hub Discord, which once again, link is in the description, to make sure that you have a community around you which will get you through the event in a very positive way. You can ask many community members from the past events, whether it be the Battlefield Engineer, the Festive event, or Operation Summer last year, who have benefited greatly from being part of the community, socializing, talking about what's the event is, and working together, squadding up. It's a great community of people, and I'm very happy to be part of it. I'll be hanging out in all of the public voice channels with everybody to make sure that everything goes smoothly, especially for new people. So if you need any help, make sure to contact me or any of the moderation team who are on the server. Let's get into the Warbonds. Let's talk about the main, goals or main vehicles which are going to be available in August. Now remember, because of August being quite busy in War Thunder, of course we have the Operation Heat, and we also have this. And something I should also mention is the fact that if you actually go to the Gamescom website now, Gaijin is listed as an exhibitor, so they are going to be there in some form or another. So if you just click on Gaijin for 2019, you can see that it's Gaijin Entertainment. They're going to be in Hall 2.2, stand B049. So if you are an individual who wants to go to Gamescom, understand that Gaijin will also be there. I don't think they're doing a massive thing like they did last year, just because it seems to be just a stand. But if you're around, why not check them out? Why not say hi and go and talk to some of the guys? So yeah, it is confirmed that Gaijin are going to Gamescom. The only question now is in what capacity. Anyway, back to what I was talking about before. I just wanted to get that in, so if anyone was confused whether Gaijin's going to be there or not, it's it's on the official Gamescom side, so they're going to be there. Now, talking about the Warbonds, with Operation Heat going on, this Warbond month is going to be probably one of the hardest, because you've got all of the challenges for Operation Heat and also the Warbond tasks and special tasks that you have to fulfill. It's not going to be easy unless you try and do them in tandem, and even then it's going to be a little bit rough to do. But what I will say is, when you're picking your special tasks, it may be worth trying to couple them with the challenges of Operation Heat to try and make the challenges a lot easier to do for yourself. So you can kind of double dip in a way, try and do the Warbond shop and Operation Heat at the same time. In this video, we're going to go through the vehicles which are on offer in the Warbond shop, and also we'll probably talk about some of the other slight changes which are going on as well. So if you actually go to the Warbond shop, you can see it's available now. We've got the 30-day one, and then of course the 7-day one. There is actually a slight change. So the slight change is, if you go to this box here, which is the infantry helmet one, as you can see, there's a bunch of infantry helmets which are on offer from either past events or just new events. That is actually changing this time. It's changing to some decorations such as Achtung Panzer, ahead only, no pedestrians, no smoking, and no entry. So if you want to get yourself a helmet, make sure to click and get this one here, alongside the other, alongside the other stuff which is on offer for the last month's Warbond shop. But for the new one, just understand it's changing. Also, the decal itself, the Spartan nose art, this is the new decal for the month. It's of the 190th Assault Helicopter Company in Vietnam. It's a very clean and crisp decal. One of the things I personally really like about decals, ones which are incredibly defined, ones which you can kind of put anywhere, and this is one of those decals. It's white, meaning that it will stand out on the majority of vehicles, and also it's a nice PNG without a square around it, so therefore you can kind of just fit it into anything. One of the nicest things for me is actually coupling decals together, and a decal like that, you would definitely be able to do it kind of like this, where I've coupled together 4 separate decals to create what you see before you. So hopefully people will go for that decal. Let's have a look at the other options though. Of course, you have the branches, you have the all of the battle trophies here. The profile icons are staying, and if we have a look at the test drives, you can either get the Cromwell RP3, the AMX-13 SS11, the Project 7U Strongy, then you've got the RU-251, and of course the M26E1. So the catches here, in my opinion, are the M26E1. If you don't know what it is, it's a slightly upgraded M26. It's got a different gun on it, the T54 gun, which gives you access to the T41 shell with 224mm of pen, and also a HFAB shot, the APCR, which has 270. This gun is incredibly good. Its reload's a little bit long, but overall at 6.7, it fits really well with the heavy tank lineup and also the light tank lineup that the Americans run. On top of this, the RU-251, in my opinion, is one of the best premiums in the game. Now, you've got to remember, I am a light tank player mainly. When it comes to ground forces nowadays, light tank or IFV, really enjoy that stuff. And the RU-251 has been the bane of my existence for an incredibly long time. And the reason why I've never bought it is because I effectively think that it is not necessarily broken, but incredibly good in the game. And the reason for this is because it's 90mm heat. A lot of people don't like the damage that the heat does. Well, guess what? There's a lot of vehicles at 6.7 that just can't pen anything because they're running AP, so therefore the heat FS is nice. You always guarantee damage done. The MG3 on top is very good at annihilating lighter vehicles than you, and the speed that this thing has on offer is absolutely insane. The survivability of it as well with the hull brake changes has increased. It's still not great, but the majority of the time you shouldn't really be getting shot. The fact is, when it comes to the RU-251, it is a very good passive scout, it is a very good aggressive scout, it is a very good trader because of its 90mm, and also you can just whiz around the map, being able to change the game as you go. It also has good gun depression, decent turret rotation speed. It has everything you would want out of a vehicle. So therefore, that is why I really like it as a vehicle. I think it's great. So my picks from these, I mean the RP3 if you want to have a bit of fun, I suppose, but I wouldn't say it's worth it. It's just a Cromwell with rockets on it. Then the AMX-13 SS11, it's a bit janky to use, but once again, it's a very good scout. Would rather have the RU. The Strongy is great, it's a very good machine, and also you can buy it for GE right now if you feel like it. But I would just say get one of these, depending on what nation you want to grind, if you're trying to get the test drives. On top of this, if we have a look at the vehicles themselves, we have the Corsair F Mk II, which is the British one, the Chinook II, the Elco 80-footer PT556, the B25J30, Panzer III N, and the Romanian Duck, which is in the Italian tech tree. I'm very happy to see that the boats make another comeback. I think having boats as integral to the Warbond shop is very nice to see. I think we always should have a boat alongside the ground vehicles and the air vehicles, trying to bring naval on the same level as air and ground. So let's go through these vehicles, which ones I'd pick, which ones I wouldn't. I have experience in all of these, and also the Corsair, since of course it is very similar, if not the same, as the one which is sat in the American tech tree. So this is the British Corsair, rank 2, battle rating 2.7. If you want some standard tech tree experience for it, all you have to do is go to the USA and have a look in your invest experience. Wonderful stuff. So the if you go to the aviation sector, you will find a machine which is the F4U-1A. This is very similar to the Corsair Mark II that we have in the British tech tree. It might actually be exactly the same as it. And what you will find from this plane is, even though it doesn't have the best rate of climb, if your team can allow you the fact of that 5 or 10 minute climb you require, you can dominate matches in this thing. I've seen a lot of players, whether they use this Corsair F Mk II or they use the captured Japanese Corsair, which is sat right here, the F4U-1A, which is once again very similar to this machine that you see here. I've seen them take over games incredibly well. Wait a second. Is that an arcade there? Why has this thing got 653 kilometers an hour? And this has 615. Anyway, I'll have a look into that. It might be a different model. But anyway, I've seen many players take over games in both of these Corsairs, and the reason is because they have great guns. You know, 650 cals at 2.7 will rip anything apart with either stealth, ground, or universal running. Also on top of this, you have a bunch of ammunition, so you can stay in the air for a long time. You can bring a ton of fuel as well, but generally 20 minutes is good enough because you need, you know, to get up to those heights. The only issue is if your team falls apart within the first 5 minutes. Generally, that does happen with America at certain BRs, and the 2.7 BR it definitely can. But the thing is, this isn't American, it's British, and the British 2.7 BR, you have some absolute monsters. So you get the starting Spitfires, which are incredibly good at defensive flying. The only issue they have is, of course, their dive speed and also their lack of negative maneuvering. So therefore, they can struggle a little bit there. You got the Typhoons, which are, well, I call them a brick, but that's probably a little bit not very charitable. But overall, with the Spitfires and also the Hurricanes, you have a lot of survivability. So that means your team can survive along with this Corsair. And by the time your team is, you know, in the dogfights, you can be in a position to set up those 2-on-1s, to be aggressive, and take out all of the German or Soviet planes that you're facing. It has really nice high-speed maneuverability, has a great elevator on it, has really good boom and zoom capabilities. It's overall a really nice plane, but it does need that 5-minute setup at the start of a battle. So that is the only real issue with it, and it's not something you can control, so it can be annoying in some battles where, you know, you've taken the time to get to 4,000, make sure that, you know, you're either at least on equal playing field to the highest person on their team, you duel them, you beat them, and then you look at the rest of the map and it's like, what happened to my team? Well, it disappeared, because sometimes that happens, and sometimes you just have to go back to your airfield, you have to J out and just be like, well, that's a match lost. And this happens with a lot of planes. The IR-81C also it happens with, so you've just got to make sure that you read the map well. You read the map, you know, where you're going to be required, because you're going to be the one with the speed and the ammunition and the fuel. So yeah, just make sure that you are that rock which the team can depend on, especially while they're all around trying to defensively fly against Focke-Wulfs and Bf-109s. The next one is the Chinook II. Now, the Chinook II is an interesting cookie. The first thing, when we look at it, is it is sat at rank 3, so you can use it for dailies. You can also use it for the upcoming Operation Heat and also other, you know, events going forward. They normally span from rank 3 to 7, so this is on the lower end of rank 3, meaning that you can get into those wonderful BRs. And the way that Tazzy actually described this was actually not bad. He described it as the Panzer IV F2 of the Japanese tech tree, something which has okay maneuverability, has okay, you know, traverse and gun depression, but has a really meaty gun, which can put a lot of holes in a lot of things. Now, for me, the Chinook II is the best premium when it comes to Japan for its BR. A lot of people will point towards the Type 74 up here, which I understand. You know, I faced it a lot, and for me, it is an incredibly good vehicle. But for its BR, there are others which I would say are better. At 3.7, it's very hard to find a vehicle which is better than the Chinook II or can easily deal with the Chinook II. Even though the Chinook II's armor isn't the best, as long as you get that gun off first, which is something that you should always be focused on, especially with these medium tanks, you can just kill anything you come across. At 3.7, this gun with the coup round, 150mm of pen, you're going to eat through everything, and at the same time, it has 80 grams worth of TNT equivalent explosive mass. So you are just going to kill anything you hit. The only thing that's going to really hold you back is the reload rate and also the speed of this machine, which can struggle on certain maps such as Finland and others which don't have good friction on the ground. So even though you have a few negative factors on it, the positive factors very much outweigh it. So the gun is amazing, the profile of the tank is very nice, the gun depression is great on it, the rounds themselves are great, the speed is manageable, and the only real problem, if you want to go there, is you can't really build a lineup around it. You know, you got a lot of 3.3s for the Japanese, but you don't have any 3.7s. So basically, you can take this as a top BR vehicle at 3.7 and then bring in the M24 and the NATO or the Soki, and I think, you know, it's good enough. It can do that. So 3.7 as well, when you look at planes, you've got the Key 100, which is always fun to use. You've also got stuff like the D4Y3, also the Key 49 if you really want to, you know, well, rake your eyes out. But the main thing with it is the Chinook II has the 75mm Type 2 Model 2 cannon. This is the same gun that is on the Cheeto. Basically, what they've done is they've taken a Chinook chassis and put on the Cheeto's turret. That is the Chinook II. So even if you are not confident in using this as a top BR vehicle, you can easily take it into 4.3. You can easily take it into 4.7, because once again, the 4.7 Cheeto Late has exactly the same gun on it, and very much similar characteristics. It's even, you know, slightly faster, but that's only when it's fully upgraded. So you can take this a whole BR above its pay grade, and you can still do good in it. That is how good the Chinook II is. It's very similar to the M4A4 SA50 in that regard. It's one of the only vehicles in War Thunder that can be up-tiered really effectively. The only problem is if you get down-tiered into auto cannons, that can be a problem. Anything which has a stabilizer at this level, so Shermans are very good against it, because if you're caught on the move with the Chinook II, the only issue is the gun characteristics are not always the best, and also, you know, the armor itself being only 50mm, it's very easy to hit this area here and shoot, or just hit this area here. So the armor values aren't great. This isn't a bruiser like a KV, but this is a machine that can deal with KVs. And around this level where you get a lot of people running around in KVs, whether it be the L11, the 1S, or the ZIS-5, you need something on your team to deal with it, and luckily, you know, the Chinook II is one of those things. Very positive premium, very fun to use. Really enjoy watching it and really enjoy playing it. The next one is the Elco 80-footer, the PT556 Thunderbolt. So this is a machine that, if you go here and have a look, it rounds out a really nice lineup. Now remember, I'm talking about Naval Arcade here. So the Elco 80-footer can be found at rank 2, so it will be good for doing, you know, all of, once again, stuff like Operation Heat. It seems like the majority of the time for Naval, the challenges are from rank 2 and above. So this is a solid rank 2 ship. It also has a great lineup around it. So you've got the Elco 77-footer PT-59, the Elco 80-footer PT-565, and the Higgins 78-footer and the Elco 80-footer PT-314. So all of these are around the BR of 3.0, and the Elco 80-footer is 3.0. So you can easily run a 3 stack at 3.0, which is basically what I'm doing here with the Elcos. You know, this is going to be my Operation Heat lineup because it has a ton of torpedoes on it, has a ton of guns on it, it has a ton of fun on it, and it's just going to be great just running around trying to torp stuff with these lineups. The Elco 80-footer has access to everything you would require from a PT boat. It has 4 really nice torpedoes, it has access to a 37mm on the front and a 20mm, and just to top it off, the reason why this thing is called the Thunderbolt is because in the back it has a quad set of Oerlikon Mark IIs in a position which can only be described as crazy for the person who has to sit back there. The modifications you get for free, so you don't have to worry about that, but I'll just show you in the test cell where this guy sits, because it's just a hilarious thing to watch him, you know, like whittle about. There you go, look at this guy. He's he's just sat, you know, in the back there, firing his wonderful Oerlikons. But overall, it's just, you know, it's just a wonderful experience to see him there with the 20s at the back. So that is the main difference between it and the other PT boats. It keeps its speed, it keeps its torpedoes. The only issue with these 80-footers is that the survivability isn't great, but the survivability comes through from the speed. And also, now that there's a lot of other vehicles at 3.0, especially I've been running a few of the Japanese ones, which can outrange the 20s, you know, with their 40s and stuff like that, and the large caliber guns. So you need to get a little bit nitty and gritty and in close to the enemies, but you can do that. Basically, the general playstyle I use with these things is spawn, try and block off a pathway with torpedoes, and then go towards the furthest capture point, capture that furthest capture point, unless it's Mediterranean port, to go to the middle one, and then capture that, fight whoever decided to come your way, kill them, and then use that position to torp around the enemy spawn, and then try and move inwards towards the other cap zones to win the battle. And this works perfectly with the Elcos that you see here. You know, it works perfectly with this one, and it works perfectly with this line here. So if you're looking for a solid premium for naval, especially for obviously America, you can't go wrong with the Elco. If you're looking for something to grind the whole tree, of course get the cowl. It's, you know, it's a no-brainer. But in this sense, you know, this is a really nice pickup for the American tree. The next one's the B-25J, so Soviet, of course, being a Lend-Lease aircraft for them. This is an easy pick. This is a very simple machine that is really good for just getting bombs off and then getting back to your airfield. It has definitely taken a hit in more recent times because its bomb load is, well, not great. It only can carry 500 kilos, which isn't, you know, the best when it comes to it. I mean, think about it like this. So, B-25 was one of the earliest bombers that was added to the game. It was also one of the earliest premium bombers that were added to the game in the form of the Soviet one. At 4.3, at 4.0, you have the Me-264. Which carries 4,000 kilos. If you compare that to the B-25, the premium version, because remember the American version gets pounders. This gets 3 500 kilo Fab 500s. So you're comparing 4,000 kilos to 1,500 kilos. This has half a payload. Less than half a payload of an Me-264, and it's also a higher BR. It also gets a slightly worse spawn. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going against it. But the B-25 overall is a really nice grinder for SL and RP. It's a good turn-your-brain-off machine. You know, just go towards a base, bomb it, maybe hit a column, depending on what map you're on. But as you can see, the reward is 750% Silver Lions, which, if you look at a bunch of other planes, it's the highest reward that you can see, which is, you know, pretty much the same as a lot of other machines that are around, which are premium, but this is a 4.3 BR. The only one which I believe is lower than it, which has a similar or the same SL, is of course this one, Pekrishkin's P-39N-0, and you know, we've had words about that before, about how good this machine is and how it should go up in BR. But the King Cobra as well has the same reward. Whereas the B-25J, you can do that while just bombing. The only thing you've got to worry about is Bf-109G2 Trops, which will attack you a lot, and also certain P-47 or P-51 pilots who get a little bit nosy, and also the fact that you're not going to be as good for your team as something like a 264 is going to be, and you're just going to have to deal with that. You have to play this incredibly selfishly, whether it is to hit 1.5 bases, or whether it is to hit a column, or maybe strafe some ground targets with your 50 calibers. But if you need something that is easy to use, that has got good defenses behind it, that will always be able to defend you from the majority of angles apart from below you, this is the machine for you. You know, it's probably one of the weakest out of these Warbond shop ones, but that's just because the competition that it has nowadays is a lot stronger than when it first came out. So yeah, it's still good, great for grinding SL and turning off your brain, which is good. The next one on the list is the Panzer III N. So the Panzer III N is also the B-25 is rank 3, so you can use it for the, the bombing bases or the tonnage thing that you see in other events. The Panzer III N is a rank 2 machine, so you won't be able to use it for specific dailies, and you won't be able to use it for specific events. And what it is, it's an up-armored Panzer III, which has the stub gun. So it has the KWK-37, which has a really good reload on it. It has really good gun depression, but the issue is it struggles with velocity, and also the round is definitely not as good as the long-barreled 75 one. Its main rounds that it uses heat in the form of the HLGR-38C, pens 100mm, and then you've got the rot round, which pens 52. If you can pen, use the rot round, but most of the time you won't be able to, so you're kind of relegated to heat. This machine used to be incredibly good when it came to the game. The reason for this is just because it had a lot of spaced armor. It was able to bounce shots that you weren't really you weren't really going to a lot of the time. It also, compared to its standard tech tree vehicle, the Panzer III N, it offered something slightly different. You had the slightly different gun, the slightly different spaced armor, so you could run them together, and overall it would work pretty well, especially with the way that both of these vehicles interacted. You also had the Panzer III L, which also worked really well, and the Panzer III J1, which is more, newer to the game compared to the other two. So there's a nice lineup you can fit around it of medium tanks, and also you had the ability to add in some aircraft as well around the 3OBR, which is also very strong for Germany. You have the fact of the Gs, if you really want to throw them in. You have the Bf-110C7. I'm sure you're going to have the C6 as well, which is going to come in. The HE-100, which can be up-tiered to all wazoo. The Bf-109E7U2 and the AK-1B, which are nice premiums to have. And also the E4. Which is a great air superiority fighter when it comes to ground. So the lineup around this is wonderful, and that's even not including the Puma, the STKFCs. So you got the Puma, and then you got the 2344. So both of these are great vehicles to have alongside the Panzer III N, and then you still have more options: the Pz.III, and of course the STKFC 6.2. So lineups-wise, you're set. You have a bit of everything. You can pretty much run everything. The only issue is the stub gun itself and the actual power that it has. I think a lot of people would prefer the 50mm, even though it has slightly weaker post-pen damage. The gun, I like the stub gun because it means that I can hit people from angles I can generally not hit them in other specific areas. So I can loop shots over stuff. I'm able to hit certain areas. I'm able to kind of arc shots down, so I can hit areas of armor which you're not normally going to hit, therefore it can be very effective. But for a person who just wants a simple vehicle, and also a vehicle that's going to grind out, tasks and stuff like that, the Panzer III N is probably not the way to go. But it does give you some other options which are really nice to use. There's also a few naysayers about the spaced armor. I mean, it's not going to work a lot of the time, but when it does work, it definitely gives you that feeling of, thank God I had that, extra armor about. And it doesn't really affect its maneuverability too much. It's still pretty good on the ground. So, moving on to the next and last one, we have, of course, the Duck. Now, the Duck the HS-129B2, is sat right now in the Italian aircraft tree at rank 3. So once again, you can use this for dailies, you can use this for specials, you can also use this for the Operation Heat and other events going forward. This Duck is one of the more interesting vehicles when it comes to ground striking. Its engines are incredibly weak, but the power it has in the form of its guns is very strong. One Mk-103 with 100 rounds of ammunition is very strong, especially since you have this armored target belt, which is HVAP, Pz. 95. This has destroyed many ground targets when it comes to ground realistic or when it comes to air realistic, and I've even used it a little bit in ships to be able to try and attack ships head on. You also have access to the 37mm, which gives you an extra oomph, 142mm HVAP, but there's no reason to really use it because at 3.3 from above, there's not going to be many vehicles that have more than 100mm of armor, and also that low fire rate and the fact that it gives you an enormous kick to your engines and actually pushes you back is not great, when it comes to it. So for me, the Duck overall is a good ground attacker, but it's very limited in what else it can do. You normally get 1 or 2 good passes, and that's really about it, but at least it is part of one of the great 3-3 lineups for the Italians. So the Italians, I've talked about my opinions on their lineups, the issues that a lot of them have. It's very hard to build decent lineups apart from at 7-7. 7-7's a good lineup. 8-0, since the Centauro can carry pretty hard. 8-7, if you get the premium, I suppose. And then at lower BRs, especially with the BR shuffles now, it's a little bit more confusing on what to take. For me, the 3-3 lineup has been solid since the Italians have been released, and it's the one which I use to basically get tasks such as this decal done, which was quite a hard decal to get, the Pozzuolo del Fuili, but I was able to do it with this lineup. So you got the P-40 Leoncellos, then you got the M4A2, the M42 Contrario, and also the Duck alongside it. And if you want to swap out the P-40 Leoncello, then you put in, either the Stub Gun Sommervente or the 105 Sommervente. It's a solid lineup, and you could ask for a little bit more from Italy, but you're not going to get it. And what helps, what helps this lineup, if we just change it to realistic, what helps this lineup is, of course, the Duck, which gives you a great ground-pounding option, which you don't get at 3.3, apart from this monstrosity with the 102mm, which if you take this out, you are a bit of a mad lad, but you are also, well, insane. So the Duck is a great addition to any lineup, alongside a strong air superiority fighter. It gives you a different option to what you may normally use. So overall, I do think it's a nice pickup if you like playing Italy. But, not a ton of people like playing Italy, and it's also got very limited use, especially if there's even one single plane in the air for the enemy. It's going to struggle to get hits on target. You need air superiority for it to be useful because of its very weak engines and therefore its maneuverability. So, ranking them in order of usefulness in the battle, I would probably go number 1 is the Chinu 2, just because of its ability to be up-tiered and its great gun. Then the Elco 80-footer, because it fits so well into that 3.0 lineup, it crowns it incredibly well. Then it goes to the Corsair, because of the fact that it can and always will have the ability to change matches with its ability to clean up enemy teams with the way that I talked about before. Number 4 is going to be the Duck, because of the fact that it rounds out once again that 3-3 nice Italian lineup, which is one of the strongest for Italy. Then the B-25J, just because it's good, and as I said, it's turn your brain off Prince over Lions mode, but it does have an issue where it definitely feels like it's been power creeped compared to some of the more heavier bombers in the game. The Farman, the NC-223, the Halifax, even the Halifax, even the Sterlings in a way, but maybe not because they never get to target. But the Me-264, definitely. and also some other machines. The Panzer III N is the last pick. That doesn't mean that it's weak, it just means that it isn't as good as the others. There's a lot of really nice candidates here. You know, there are 3 machines that I would take in many of my different lineups, and as long as I'm running through Italy, I'm taking the dog. So, you know, it's not the fact that it's weak, it's just it's the worst candidate out of all of them, which is unfortunate for it. It's like you've got like 6 Olympic sprinters. None of them are slow, but there's going to be a few who are faster than others. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Blackie, Daniel Stanton, John Ryman, Martinez, Moxie, Alobrilo, Super Cacti, Grisvolk, E-Love Goat, and Seductive Trash Can for supporting the channel.